So I went there, I opened the door, and I saw, just imagine, these tables that the ones that they use for parties, the folding tables?
Yeah.
Okay, just imagine 10 tables.
10 tables, yeah.
Full of cash.
No way.
Yeah, like piles of cash. And there was 15, 20 people there counting and organizing. But it was so fun because I opened the door and everybody stopped.
Right.
And they were like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong place. Well-known case of the bodies of 12 girls were found in a cotton field in the middle of the city. And the police arrested 2 bus drivers with zero guilt on that, zero responsibility. But you have no idea how much they tortured these poor guys in order to declare, to say we did it. And it was crazy because, one, when I read the documents and when they described me who did the torture, at least 4 or the 6 who participated in those tortures, I know them personally. I work with them.
You're listening to Board with Nelly.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Board with Nelly. Today I'm joined with Luis Horacio Nájera. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Fair enough.
You're an experienced crime analyst and journalist who has lived in Canada since 2018, since the time you sought asylum, I believe. You've reported for La Reforma media group in Ciudad Juarez and other hotspot areas along the U.S.-Mexico border. You're also the co-author with Peter Edwards on a book called The Wolfpack, which I'm holding right here, and I strongly recommend everyone gets it and gives it a read. Self-described as a book about millennial mobsters who brought chaos and cartels to the Canadian Underworld.
Yes, that's right.
Beautiful. So let me ask you, I guess, how did you first get into journalism? What made you decide to go that route, especially in Mexico, where it's very dangerous to go into that occupation?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I began my career in 2000. No, it's way beyond that. Yeah. I guess the story begins with I love basketball. So as a lot of failed athletes, I tried to play professionally, and I wasn't that good. I wasn't that bad too, but I guess I wasn't good enough to make it to the pros. Even I had a few opportunities, but also I injured really easily on my knees. So I had this and this taste for sports, and when the time came to choose a career, undergrad studies, my older sister, she was already studying communications. In those days, you go to the School of Communications, and then they have like 3 different majors. One was advertising, public relations, and journalism. So she said, why don't you just come and see, and maybe, because my original plan was to study psychology. And but I went to the School of Psychology, and I didn't like the school, which is super dumb. I mean, right. You don't go to school because you don't like the facility. Right. Well, that's me. Yeah. So I didn't like the facility, and then my sister invited me to go to her school, and I said, well, and then I had this on the back of my mind was like sports, and I said, okay, why not? So yeah, that's how I ended going into the School of Communications. And then on my second semester, I had an excellent professor. He gave gave the whole class one of the best pieces of advice that I have ever received. He said, you have to understand something, guys. You are in the public school, public university. So you have a disadvantage. Why? Because you have private universities who are super good. And the biggest issue is that these guys are right now, they are trained and educated to be leaders because they are wealthy.
Right.
So as soon as they graduate, they are going to, inherit the business and the whatever positions. Meanwhile, you guys, the poor guys, you have to climb up your way up to some management position. So my advice to you is to begin now. How? Go and ask for internships, paid, unpaid, whatever is available. If you like TV, go to the TV station and, bring coffees, make photocopies,
right.
Whatever you can do
just to get in.
Exactly, just to get in.
Yeah.
And I thought, that sounds interesting. So in my case, I said, journalism. Oh, and the other thing is he also gave us, it's funny because his class was about a theory of communications. But he said, you know what, theories, no, I'm going to give you practical advice, practical knowledge. So he divided the course in 3 sections. One was a little bit of public relations, a little bit of advertising, and a little bit of journalism. So in that way, you can get a sense of, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Plus the fact that he asked or he advised to go and look for opportunities. So I said, So I follow his advice, and I started an unpaid internship in a tiny newspaper. Just to give you an idea how old I am, I was the last generation to use typewriters.
Wow.
Mechanical typewriters in a newspaper.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
The old way to, the whole system for the photos and organizing the pages and everything. Well, I've been there. So I started there. And lucky enough, I had the opportunity to write a little bit about basketball. So I guess that was kind of the confirmation that I needed to say, you know what, this is what I like. So I decided to continue and to do my major in journalism. From there, I spent a few years working in sports. And actually, the early stage of my career was writing about sports. I wrote professional baseball in Mexico. Mexico has the professional league in Mexico is the equivalent to the AAA category with MLB. So from there, they jump right away into MLB. And there's a lot of players who played a little bit in Mexico and they went back to the major leagues and so forth. And the winter league is also extremely good because it's a lot of players who play in the MLB. They go back to the Caribbean because it's the Caribbean. It's called the Pacific and Caribbean League. So they play to stay active in the winter. So the level is really good. So I covered that. I went to different international events, these major boxing fights. Like you're too young, probably you don't remember Julio Cesar Chavez.
No, I do. Yep.
Okay, well, I had the opportunity to report one of his fights in San Antonio.
Very cool.
So I went there, I opened the door, and I saw, just imagine, these tables that the ones that they use for parties, the folding tables.
Yeah.
Okay, just imagine 10 tables.
10 tables, yeah.
Full of cash.
No way.
Yeah, like piles of cash. And there was 15, 20 people there counting and organizing. But it was so fun because I opened the door and everybody stopped.
Right.
And they were like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong place. Good for me. I have my this credential that you have. So it says donkeying, whatever. So they look at me, and one guy came. What are you doing here? I'm lost and I need water. Oh, water. Okay, yeah, just throw me a bottle.
No hablo inglés.
Yeah, no speak English. Actually, I didn't speak English in that time. Yeah, as I was like, well, I don't speak either. No, but anyways, so I was like, agua, por favor.
Right.
Water. Oh, yeah. You're not allowed to be here. Yeah, no. And I don't want to be here. Bye. So I left that. So it was like, wow. I mean, the amount of money that these events, I don't know, I guess it's still.
Yeah, boxing's still pretty big, but yeah, probably back in those days was crazier.
Yeah, it was crazy. And the whole industry around boxing. You have from gambling, you have sex workers. Oh, man, the hotel was full.
Really? Wow.
It was crazy. You just walk on the aisle with your ID, and out of the blue, a beautiful girl came to you and, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Hi, my name is, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
And she gave you a card. I'm with another 15 girls in this hotel. Call me if you need something.
That's a different world. That's a different time. That was wow.
No. It was crazy.
So was that money all that was legal money, right? That was like boxer.
Yeah. No.
So yeah. Cartel bust, like where they have.
No.
It's real.
Well,
but we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah. But I think it wasn't the. I mean, it was legal because. And I guess, for instance, that amount of cash was used to, for expenditures
of course.
Whatever they need, cars, right. Food,
those workers
whatever
that you're talking about, those they get paid in cash probably. So yeah, all that.
Yeah, and all of them were identified with the, donkeying promotions, and so it wasn't that like I found like a hidden,
right,
shady. Illegal thing. No. Well, that's what I want.
We don't know, right? Assume.
Yeah, exactly. But it seemed legal. So those days were journalism was completely different in many ways. So I started. I worked on that sports area. Then I was transferred to the political section. And slowly I got involved in politics, politicians, government, and then...
Did you want to do that, or was it because you were doing a good job they transferred you, or they didn't have enough people doing that kind of stuff, or...
Probably the last.
Okay.
Well, yeah. No, and the other thing is I was studying at that time. So I began my career on my second semester. So I was 19 years old. So many of those things happened while I was completing my undergrad. In Mexico, undergrad is 4 years. So 4 years, so 3 years and a half, I worked like part-time.
Yeah, I got you. Internship and going to school.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because I did an internship in that small newspaper. Then I did another internship kind of thing. And there was a specialized basketball magazine. And I went there for a while. And then I went through a friend at school and a professor at the school. They said, hey, there's a part-time position in a kind of major newspaper. So I went there and I got hired. So pretty much the last 2 years, year and a half of my undergrad, I was working and studying. So which was good because that I was kind of more officially as a journalist, working and so on, so on. So they relocated me to the political section after I graduated because I have more time and I can do.
Right. And how was that transition? Because you went from Julio Cesar Chavez, matches to reporting for politics and these old guys with a lot of money.
Bored.
Right.
Yeah, it was super bored. But I mean, I guess you said, well, it's okay, I'll take it. Especially because now you feel more somehow empowered because I graduated now. So yes, I am now. I am a full-time journalist. And then I went back to sports again, and I was back and forth. And then I moved to a different city, and then I mean, in my career, I have been assigned to pretty much every section in a newspaper.
Wow.
I have been a sports writer, a politics writer, fashion. Don't ask me that.
Yeah.
Fashion, yeah.
Okay.
I wrote about self-help books. I wrote about what else? Everything. I mean, pretty much, yeah. So police, crime, yeah. It was.
So how does the crime stuff start becoming more of your time and more of your work? How does crime reporting?
I guess again, I on the back of my mind, I think I'm kind of the combination of a psychology, criminology, sociology guy, because I always been interested in human nature, human interactions, human systems, politics, and so I said like, so somehow I started to even if I wasn't working directly and as a crime reporter, I was engaged with I like to speak with the reporters, and I like to speak about things, and sometimes they say, oh, these things happen, you want to go? Yeah, sure.
Right.
So I go there
tagging
and
along,
I
and then you do it.
Yeah. I like to tag along and to look around and to kind of so yeah. So that's how I come. I was kind of aware, and at some point they said, well, this is an opportunity, so you can start working on that. Yeah, sure. So
what were some of the bigger stories that time in the cartel crime world that you covered? And when did you have to start worrying about your own safety and then have to leave?
Well, that's long after that. Yeah, because this period of time that I'm talking to you, it's early 90s, the end of the late 80s, early 90s. So everything was completely different. When I go to Juarez, it's interesting. I begin in that newspaper, the Diario de Juarez, it's called. I was hired as a politics reporter because there was an election coming. So they hired me to be part of elections.
Yeah, the campaign, whatever, the
reporter
for the campaign, yeah.
Reporter for the campaigns and politics and so on, so on. So, and we did a very, very good job. But in those days, it was kind of the early stages of kind of the more kind of public awareness about drug cartels. So it was kind
We're talking about late 80s, 90s,
mid 90s, 90s.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that Colombia, like during peak Colombian cocaine days, or is that still a bit after? I can't remember when.
Yeah, it was the early. No, it was.
Yeah, around that time, no? Because Escobar died in 93, so I'm assuming the height of the cocaine stuff in Colombia was around late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s, but this was 90, 95, 90 something. So it was the aftermath of Escobar. Which actually benefited the Mexicans.
Yeah, that's what I'm led to understand.
Exactly. So,
if you want to elaborate more on that, go ahead. If you want to elaborate on why.
Yeah. No, so after Escobar died, it was. Well, let me go back in time. Mm-hmm. Just a quick recap of the history of drug dealers in Mexico.
Please.
So in the 80s, you have this group which is called the Guadalajara Cartel. Well, by the way, I don't like, and I don't use when I usually write, I don't use the word cartels because the meaning is completely different. So for me, it's criminal organizations. So in the 80s, there was a group in Guadalajara, in the South Pacific, Southwest Mexico. And these guys were, they organized and they have a good organization dealing with marijuana and heroin from Mexico to the States. But at some point, there's a guy from Guatemala who introduces the Colombians with the Mexicans and says, because before that, the major route was Colombia, the Caribbean, and Miami or Florida. That was kind of the main route. But there's a big breaking point when, because of the interest in Florida, there was a very, very significant player there, a woman called Griselda Blanco. She was kind of the godmother of drug lords in Florida from Colombia. And she was kind of extremely ruthless, cruel girl.
Old lady, right? She was.
Oh yeah, it's a lady. Yeah. So she was kind of brutal. She ordered assassinations, and there was a big fight for the territory in Florida. So because of that, the DEA is when they started to put a lot of attention to the Caribbean route. So they started to intercept a lot of vessels,
cargoes,
boats,
planes that dropped off cocaine by the water. Right.
Yeah, all that thing. And so they said, what can we do? Oh, we have a new route, Mexico. Yeah, sure, let's do it. So they get in touch with the Mexican groups. In those days, it was the Guadalajara organization, which is tied to the Sinaloa. And there's another major player in Nuevo Laredo, which is northeast, Juan N. Guerra. So they kind of work, they tolerate each other. So when the Colombians come and they say, we have this massive opportunity for you, they say, yeah, sure, let's take it. So this is when kind of the major routes of drug trafficking in Mexico are organized. You have Nuevo Laredo, which is northeast. You have Juarez, which is the center. And then you have Tijuana, which is west. So basically, and some places in the middle.
And before that, sorry to interrupt you. Before that, what was crime like in Mexico and cartels like? Didn't have nearly as much power, or
no, they have power, but it was different because they have a lot of control, and the government also had control, so to speak, because there was a very hegemonic political dominion in the government. So let's say that I want to smuggle drugs, I will be probably arrested by the military or the police, the federal police, and they will take me to the governor or the mayor and say, you know what, this is how we do business here. This is your route. You have to respect this route. You have to pay us, and we are not going to bother you. From time to time, you have to give us maybe 200, 300 kilos for public opinion to say, oh, we did this major intercept. Okay. And you have to give us 2 or 3 workers to be arrested and so on. So it was kind of a...
everyone gets a little piece of the pie. Everyone has to...
Yeah, and it was... And in those days, we like to say that... those who die are those who needed to die. It wasn't like a random fire. No. It was, okay, you did something wrong.
You were
No,
in the
you have to-
business. You took
Yes,
that
exactly.
choice. You made that choice.
Exactly. And you will die. You will pay for that.
And
That
Mexico
was the-
economically, how was Mexico as a country economically and stuff like that?
In those days, it was, I mean, better than now.
Better than that, right? Okay, that's all I was curious.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was the beginning of the neoliberalism policies, the Washington Consensus. So the situation was different. Mexico in those days they had, particularly in the 80s, Mexico had a big economic boom because of oil. But unfortunately, corruption and bad governments evaporated all this wealth. But before 94, that's when the NAFTA came into place with the big neoliberalism. Politics came also into play. The country was Mexico was usually the Mexican governments before that were more kind of a center to the left a little bit. It somehow kind of almost like kind of liberal
really
in Canada, kind of. Yeah, okay. I mean, not that liberal.
Not this liberal, yeah.
Yeah, not this liberal, but kind of like that.
And the border, so, was it hard to get across the border like it is today, or was it a lot easier?
Oh no,
right?
way. Oh yeah, way.
Really? Okay.
Easier. I remember when my mom got us, he was trying to get us a passport. In those days, you can get a passport per family. So you take, let's say that you with your mom, your dad, and your siblings, you all of you go and take a photo all together,
right? And
that photo was stamped in your passport.
Wow.
So it wasn't an individual passport; it was a family passport.
That's hard to imagine.
So you just go and say, yeah. So, oh yeah, sure, come in. And it was like sometimes, I mean, everything was super different. Ciudad Juarez in the 90s, man, 24/7. Everything was open. Juarez, it's you have downtown El Paso, and then you have one bridge, and you have downtown Juarez. So both are connected. So downtown Juarez was 24/7. 24/7.
Juarez is a fascinating place because it's a border city. It's very unique. Where on one side you have extreme violence, cartel problems, a lot of American industry there because it's really cheap, right? And then on the other side you have America. It's just really fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like Tijuana. Tijuana you have Tijuana, which is extremely complex city because it's kind of in the mountains and there's a lot of bad urban planning and so. And then you cross and then you have Chula Vista, and you have the malls and you have the outlets and you have the whole thing. It's plain. It's completely different. The border is fascinating for me. It's fascinating. I have the opportunity to report and travel pretty much the whole border, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
So you were saying in the early 90s, that's when it started that route between Mexico and America, because the Colombians went to the Mexicans, right, for an easy access to.
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s. And then when Escobar died, and then the Cali cartel is the leaders are also prosecuted and arrested and prosecuted. The Colombian business begin to evolve, and then you have instead of having these major significant cartels, those were cartels, the Cali and Medellin. Now you have now they call it BACRIMs, bandas criminales, and then you have also the guerrillas and the paramilitaries, which they played a significant role also in the drug trade. You have the FARC, and then you have the paramilitaries, AUC, Autodefensas Unidas de Colombia, and then you have the ELN, another guerrilla group. So all of them took they seized the opportunity to produce cocaine and to start doing business with the Mexicans. So in those days, again, Juarez was, everybody knows or everybody knew, okay, this place belongs to a drug lord, this business, blah, blah, blah. But everybody was like, I don't care. It's like, I don't mess with them, they don't mess with me. Even as, I can say, even as journalists, we knew, and there was kind of unwritten rules between drug dealers or between criminals and journalists. So there's a limit, and if you want to stay safe, you don't cross that limit. And they know, they knew, because everything changed now. They knew that as soon they also had a limit, and they have a line. So
if
they
something
respect
happens
that line.
to you, the government comes after them.
Yeah, and it was kind of
Yeah. And if you what is the limit respect there for you guys? If you go after them too much and really seek to expose someone, that's what
exactly. Yeah. Especially
dangerous.
the big especially the big names. You don't even mention those names in the newspaper. So in those days, that's when after the election, that election that I was hired to report on ended, they said, you know what, there's some situations in the newsroom, and they said, you know what, you should go to report crime. And the thing is, beyond or beside organized crime, Juarez is also well known because of the something called the femicides, which it began in 95, 94. And it is the systematic disappearances and sexual abuse and murders of young girls in Juarez. So I was one of the first, or probably the first reporter who said, oh, something's happening here. And I wrote about it. I said, you know what? I think there's a serial killer here in this border because of this and this and this and this and this and this and that. And that's how I became really, really deep into crime reporting, reporting on the femicides of Juarez.
So what ended up happening? Yeah, what ended up happening with that?
That began, well, I began to publish that in 95. And it was ugly. It was terrible. In those days, we, as journalists, we were allowed to go with the police, to tag along with the police, and with forensics. So we had access right next to the body, and we can take notes and photos and so on. So I had direct access to everything that happened to those poor girls. And then I follow up the reporting with the families, and it was.
You reported on some of the most atrocious things a human being can do to another human being, essentially.
Yes. Yep. You're absolutely right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go from reporting at the border to what after that? How does cartel reporting work, or when did you start? Stuff like that.
Oh well, So at some point, there were some differences with my my editors about some reporting on these infamous femicides, and they decided to relocate or reassign me to sports again. So they sent me I wouldn't say promote, because I never got a pay raise, something, but it was reassigned to,
right.
And I became the sports editor, which I mean, it was good because I was back to sports, and I saw also it was good because I had the opportunity to attend and to report a Super Bowl, which is another massive experience. Oh, it's a whole world. Yeah.
Did
Super Bowls are
this is
insane.
I mean, maybe this is a dumb question, but did the significance of sports seem lesser after you reported on such crazier?
Of course.
Yeah, it kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but for me, somehow was kind of a relief, because after, going all through all these extremely sad, horrific situations, I was relocated to sports, and okay, it's time to rest for me. And it was good, because it was much needed. I can say that. And then I have this motivation of going to a Super Bowl, and it changes your mindset and everything. So you're kind of okay. And I guess as a journalist, you have to be you need to develop that capacity of, okay, I'm writing about this now. Okay, tomorrow I'm writing about something different. For instance,
whatever you're writing about is the most important thing, right?
Exactly. Actually, one day I had the opportunity. It was an extremely beautiful day, because, beautiful in the sense of reporting, because in the evening I attended and reported a memorial for girls victims of violence, but it was a memorial with indigenous performers, and it was kind of it was beautiful. But I reported that, and then I drove across the border to have an interview with Michael Chertoff, which then was the Homeland Security Secretary for the United States, to talk about completely different things, right?
Right.
In a completely different set, in a completely different conversation and topics, and
right.
It was kind of a complete from indigenous rituals
right.
to border security in one day. So
right.
those kind of things was kind of great. For me, So, and I went back to sports, and I went to the Super Bowl, and it was great. And it was great because I went to Arizona, and that was I think it was the 50th. I think it was Cowboys versus Steelers. So I had the opportunity to watch legends of
right.
the NFL playing, like Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders.
Right. And as a big sports fan, your whole life, that must have been surreal.
Yeah. I like it. So and Emmitt Smith, and to have the possibility not only to watch them play, to meet them face to face,
to be there,
in the locker room.
Right.
And to be in the locker room with them. It was. It was an amazing experience. And from there, I paused my career in journalism, and I went to public service. I went to work for as an assistant for here will be a member of parliament, kind of in Mexico are called deputies. Congressman. Yeah, congressman. It will be.
You were tired of reporting on politicians. You wanted to become a politician.
No, I wasn't that kind of.
Just kidding.
No, I just
kidding.
It was kind of just the opportunity.
Just
right?
what happened, yeah.
Yeah, they contacted me, said, you like to work with us, you like to come to Mexico City, and blah blah blah. So, yeah, sure, why not? Which was a good experience, because this congressman was a member of it's called what would be the equivalent here in Canada? It's called they have commissions in every the Congress. They have a commission to deal with this.
Right. Yeah.
So this commission was in charge of national security and defense. So that was good, because that allowed me to getting to know the military, getting to know a lot of some national security things, and so on. So that was, for me, as to my career, to my personal growth, was great.
Does organized crime fall under national security?
In those days, no.
No, it did. Okay.
No. In those days, national security was completely different. And I spent there like less than a year because I wasn't a politician. So politics are extremely cruel and rude and dirty, nasty, I would say. I decided to go back to Juarez. And then I was, because of my connections with this politician and this congressman, I was hired to work in the state government. And I worked briefly on the sports and recreation again. Sports and recreations department or ministry. I worked there for a while. Yeah, it wasn't that long. And then I was invited to join the state police.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So, and that was a whole different monster, completely different. Yeah.
You've taken on all the worst monsters you can, reporting on some of the atrocities, being a politician or in politics, seeing what the military does, and then going into the police, and all of this in Mexico.
Yeah, and then
quite the career path.
And then I went to the state police. I worked there for 5 years. And a friend of mine, one day I meet a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a while, and he was with another guy, and he said, "Oh, let me introduce you to Nájera," he said. And this is, I like his description, because he says, "Oh, he's a journalist, but also he worked for the state police, and I can say he went to the roots of hell and came back unharmed."
Yeah, not many.
I don't know. I don't know if unharmed, but I went there. Yeah, I know that. I know that. So yeah, I went there for 5 years. Then I went back to journalism again, and I worked sports again. Sports, and again, I don't know. I was doing well. I was in a very comfortable zone, but one day I decided to investigate the use of counterfeit documents from universities to recruit players.
Okay.
So that was a good investigation, a massive scandal that ended. One private university canceled its football program because of that, because they found that the coaches, and it was a big mess. They canceled that, and the other fired the whole administrative unit.
Did you upset a lot of people? Did you make a lot of enemies with that one?
Yeah. And it was very, very upset with me. So yeah, I did that. And after that, they said, you know what? I think you are ready to be an editor. Okay, sure. So they promoted me. No, not promoted me again, because I continued to get the same.
Just gave you more work, but paid you the same.
Exactly. So yeah, they reassigned me to the city section. So I was the editor of the city section. And I stayed there for not for long, because then I was hired by Reforma to work as correspondent in Ciudad Juarez. And then I spent four years there, but that was kind of extremely intense years, because that when the preparation of the war from drug cartels, those days when the war was being kind of the strategies and everything. And I don't know if I was good enough or lucky enough to identify those tactics and say, you know what, we need to start writing about this, which I did. And I started to, you know what, this is happening. And because of that, the the newspaper said, you know what, you should go all across the border to report on these issues. So I went to every major city at the border before and during the beginning of the war. So I was there and I said, oh yeah, this is happening. And of course, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, when you say this is happening, for people that might not know, what does that usually entail? When you say war was starting, we're talking about the rise of Mexican cartels and the violence that comes with that. What are we talking about specifically?
No. It was, for instance, a very common tactic that they developed was to infiltrate the local police.
Okay.
And they fracture the police because in one city, usually one criminal organization controls the police. Right. But a different one came and infiltrated and then split the force. And then police officers begin to kill each other.
Wow.
So at the beginning, and I guess to my benefit, being after I worked 5 years with police officers, I kind of understand a lot of the mindset and the situations and the things. And I have a kind of a way to connect with them. Even I wasn't a law enforcement agent per se, but I talked to them and la. I said, oh yeah, oh okay, and then I said, you know what, this is fracturing. This is going to happen, and that happened in every major city, and I started to. So from there. At the same time, we have another wave of femicides in Juarez, and there's extremely wrongful by the government, human rights abuses, scapegoats, and I was reporting on all those things.
And lack of investigations, right?
Oh yeah. I became more of I was the correspondent, but I guess 50% correspondent, 50% investigative journalist.
Yeah, sorry, you were going to say something. You were going to say there was
no. That, for instance, in those days there was a very well-known case of the bodies of 12 girls were found in a cotton field in the middle of the city, and the police arrested 2 bus drivers with zero guilt on that, zero responsibility. But you have no idea how much they tortured these poor guys in order to declare, to say we did it. And it was crazy because, one, when I read the documents and when they described me who did the torture, at least 4 or the 6 who participated in those tortures, I know them personally. I work with them. So it was like, wow, really? Wow. So, and then reading and then I had the opportunity to talk to them, and they told me everything that they suffered. At some point, one of these bus drivers, he got sick, and the government sent him for a surgery, and he died during the operation.
While he was detained, he was in arrest.
Yeah. He was at jail. Yeah. He was at jail, and then he got sick, and they said no, he needs a surgery.
If they had already,
he died.
What, did he get convicted, or was he just in jail? Because that's what they thought or they were looking to blame him, but they never got a conviction. I don't know what the penalties are in Mexico and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if they wanted to get rid of him, why not just do it with a corrupt courtroom?
They wanted. I think in those days they were already convicted, but the family always fought.
Right.
Yeah, and they were super active, and the community was, because they knew these guys, and so out of the blue, this guy goes to the surgery room and he dies. Okay, his lawyer, the lawyer of the guy who died, says, I'm going to denounce the governor because he ordered this assassination.
Wow.
1 or 2 weeks later, he was killed.
Wow.
And his father, another lawyer, was killed years later.
Because he wouldn't let go, or he was probably still trying to...
Yeah.
Wow, that's corruption
The other guy,
on a level that people here do not comprehend.
You can imagine, yeah. And the other thing is, the other guy, the guy who survived, I don't know if my reporting helped or not, but I was constantly reporting on these things. So finally, he was there's something that it's called the Istanbul Protocol, which is a series of tests that a person who has been tortured has to go through to justify or to prove that he or she has been tortured. These are international protocols. So this guy went through those protocols and they said, yes, he was tortured, this, and this. And again, I was really deep into investigating this and exposing, okay, this is not right, blah, blah, blah. I had access to all documents and everything. So the guy at the end was, how do you say when he was...
detained, captured, he was...
No. He was released, but without...
paroled? Parole?
No. Free.
Oh, like, he's completely free.
But there's a word.
What's the Spanish word? Maybe like...
absuelto.
Absolved?
Absolved. Yeah, absolved. When they said, you know what?
My Spanish is going well.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. Absolved is when they said, you know what?
Right.
I'm sorry. It wasn't you. Sorry. Right. You're free to go. Okay. He was
wrongly convicted. Released. Then he was wrongly convicted, right?
Wrongly. I don't know if I'm wrongly. He was specifically convicted because he was targeted.
Right. Okay.
So he went out. Which is, man, his mom died while he was at jail. And usually inmates are allowed to go to the cemetery for the funeral service. But the government said, no, you're too dangerous. So they didn't want him to go to attend his mom's funeral. So the first thing that he did when he was out of jail, he went to the cemetery. And I think I'm the only one who went there. I mean, the only journalist. No, it was another journalist, but I think I'm the only one who has the photo when he was, on her knees, on his knees, crying on his mom's graveyard. It was nasty. Well, his lawyer, a couple of years later, he was killed. Actually, I met him 2 days before he was killed, and we had an appointment. We said, hey, we have to talk.
With the lawyer?
Because he says, yeah. He said, I have new information for you. Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, when? If I'm right, I saw him on Monday in a restaurant. He was killed on Wednesday. And he said, yeah, let's plan for maybe next week. Yeah, sure, next week. Yeah, I'll call you. Yeah, sure. Probably, or maybe, I don't know, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, sure. And boom. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. Is that,
yeah,
so that's the beginning of the attacks on journalists and anyone that spoke against the corruption and...
Yeah, pretty much.
Widespread killing of... And very blatant.
They wipe out all... At least in this case, every single lawyer was wiped out because another lawyer who also had a little bit of an intervention, he was killed years later too.
And then here you are in a place reporting on this stuff where you're enemy of both sides. You're enemy of the side that's trying to cover it up, the killers, the cartels, whoever did it, and then you're the enemy of the government who's trying to take their money and also try to sweep it on the rug. So you're making multiple enemies now, right?
Yeah, actually, I think I wrote about it in an essay that I wrote for this Comité to Protect Journalists about my experience of fleeing Mexico. Yeah, I was trapped between two fires. I was caught between two fires because I had threats from the government and I had threats from criminals, and credible threats. Because from the government, I had a good friend, which I really owe him a lot, because one day he came to me and said, "You know what? I heard your name. They are kind of targeting you. Be careful. Be careful because this is serious." Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's the first time you had something like that, or for something that was that serious?
Nah. I mean, in my life, I have been, someone has pointed a gun on me 5 times in my life.
Wow.
So, but this time, because I know the guy and I know the level of kind of information that he had access, of course it was credible, because I know he was kind of well connected and well informed. Right. So I said, well, okay, thank you. Yeah, and that was when I said, And then the other guys also threatened me, and threatened my family. So that's when I said, no. We need to leave.
Was that the breaking point then, or was there any other specific moment that triggered it? Or was it more when you got when you were allowed to come into Canada on exile, or does that?
No. That was like this.
Oh.
No. No. I guess the breaking point was my wife when she was threatened outside of the house. That's what, because before that, I mean, I'm a journalist. I know what I'm doing, and I know the risk, and I accepted the risk, and so on. But this is different, right?
Right. When it's someone you love, it's a much bigger threat. Yeah. So you go from Mexico to Canada, and a part of you still wants to report on this kind of stuff. And so what happens from there? Because to me, and I think to a lot of Canadians, cartel talk or cocaine talk in Canada is kind of, I think, secondary, tertiary. It's not even on anyone's radar as a topic. Maybe you see on the news, there was a 200-pound bust at the Ambassador Bridge or something like that. But to me, at least for what it seems like not nearly as many people are talking about it, and not nearly as many stories and are known from this book, for example. I don't know any of this stuff. No one ever talked about this kind of stuff when I was growing up.
Yeah, well, when one of the talks that we had for the book, one person asked me, an interview that I had with a guy in Mexico. He asked me, I mean, you're there, man. You're happy. You're safe. Why are you still doing this? I mean, you should be happy. You should be, enjoying life in Canada with, winter time and skating and playing hockey. I don't know. But to me, this is extremely personal, because 12 fellow journalists have been murdered. Fellow journalists, people that I work with, that I met, that I personally knew. So that I will be a disappointment to myself if I'm here and I do nothing about it.
Yeah, you treat this as a vacation, or no,
I have to do another stuff because I don't want. No.
Well, I'm sure a part of you also doesn't want this place to turn into something like that. It's another level, right, to this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because this is my home now. I am a Canadian citizen. This is home. This is where my children are growing. Where my older son is married now. So I don't want to.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you. So I don't want them to suffer what we suffered.
Right.
So yeah, And for me, I was extremely blessed to meet Peter Edwards at the Toronto Star, because he's the top organized crime investigator in Eastern Canada, and he was able to identify these guys, the Wolfpack, and he said, "You know what? This is different." And he was humble at some point. He said, "You know what? There's things that I don't understand, so I need to find someone who understands this."
Someone who's lived through it.
Luis.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Come on. And he asked me. He invited me, and he taught me a lot about Canada and organized crime in Canada and policing in Canada. And I was extremely blessed to be invited to be part of this book.
Let me ask, because I'm curious for myself and for fellow Canadians, some general questions about organized crime. And first of all, what it was like in the earlier days when you first arrived here. Was there a lot of organized crime? Was there a lot of cocaine coming into Canada? Today it's all, a hotbed for cocaine. I think it's number 2 in imports in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
It wasn't that bad, but there was a significant presence. But in those days, local groups were kind of controlling the whole situation. And this is 13 years ago, because I came in 2008. So it was different. I went to Vancouver. That was my first place. So being in Vancouver, I was able to kind of scan the environment and to understand the environment. I wrote a little bit about my Vancouver experience in the book.
Right.
That was kind of because when I came here, I wasn't aware at all about Canada and organized crime in Canada. I was no, but then boom, okay, oh, this is happening. Oh yeah, this is happening. So I started to kind of research and try to get to know the situation and to understand the situation, at least in Vancouver.
So was it smaller stories about organized crime and then smaller groups that were operating?
Smaller.
It was what you were dealing with. It must be nothing.
Oh yeah. But in those days when I arrived, there was it was after the Surrey 6, the guys who were killed in Surrey, the 6 victims, and then the war. It was more like a gangs dispute. The Bacon Brothers against these, and the Red Scorpions, and the United Nations, and these
Hells
kind
Angels,
of,
right? Is that,
yeah, Hells Angels, those kind of groups. So it was kind of that. Of course, it was big, especially because some of these killings happened, for instance, outside of a mall, in a hotel, thing like that. It was big.
Public killings that were relatively rare for Canada.
Which some of them are in the book because we found that are connected. So that's when interesting. And which is very, I don't know. I started to pay attention to those things. And it's interesting how years later, when the book opportunity came out, says, "Oh yeah, I remember that because I was there when this happened, blah blah blah," and that's kind of.
So you had these stories in the back of your head, or let's say written even somewhere, but then when the opportunity came up and you had actual now documentation, texts, transcripts, everything, court dates, trials.
Yeah.
You were able to put it all together. Is that how the book was written?
Somehow, yes. Yeah, because I guess as a journalist, well, it all depends, right? If you are a sports writer, you remember things of your field, right? You remember like, oh yeah, I remember, I don't know, Michael Jordan, Joe Montana, Pelé, Maradona, whatever. The same happens with organized crime, I guess. You remember names, you remember dates, you remember situations, and say, oh yeah, I remember this guy, blah, 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 and you connect the dots easily. So that's, I mean, in my case was a good advantage for me, because when Peter says, this is what we have. And then we started to dig and we started to look and say, oh, wait. Yeah, I know this guy. I remember the thing.
Is it like, sorry to interrupt you, is it like those movies where they have a big board of pictures and like strings and everyone's tying all together? Yeah, okay, like that. Right. For people that are just listening, it's a paper with lots of squares and lots of arrows pointing all over the place. Like some sort of conspiracy movie.
Sort of. Well, you have to connect the dots, right?
Yeah, of course. It's for me. I've never seen anything like that in real life, so it's you only see it in TV shows and movies.
Yeah, well, you have that on, or you have. I have another. Oh, let me show you. This is the original notebook where I did all my research. Oh, for this book, so I can show you. This is different.
Oh wow!
Because it depends of the there's red ink, there's black ink, there's
right, very cool.
Yeah. So there's there's a lot of interest. There's green ink, so it depends.
Oh, I see a Neboy. What was it? Neboya? That was someone's name. It looks like a Serbian name. Because I know in the book that you mentioned there's a Croatian or Serbian guy, and immediately I saw that name.
Yeah. For instance, we have a lot of names.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then notes from our interviews and mental notes and So this is, for instance, the book that the notebook that I use for that, but I have a different. I have another one, this is more general, I would say. For other stuff which is related and non-related, maybe.
How do you get the text messages? I find that very interesting. I haven't seen many books with.
Court records. Yeah.
Was it fascinating?
Yeah, it was.
Was that the first time you saw criminal text messages, like between criminals?
For me?
Yeah.
No,
that was normal. Because technology is relatively recent.
But I got them when I was in Mexico. So.
Right. It was fascinating to see how they communicate. To be honest, those. That's part of the innovation of the evolution of technology, right? In the old days, you have probably you have couriers, you have early cell phones. I remember at some point, probably I shouldn't be saying this, but I had a device in Mexico that was able to intercept cell phone calls in the early days of cell phone communication. Wow. That's futuristic stuff back then, probably.
Yeah. But it was very interesting because I was able to listen, especially super late night. Very interesting conversations.
Really?
I wasn't able to identify the names. I mean, the people who were talking, but because of the things that they were talking about. Okay. Okay.
Were they talking about like big shipments or ungodly amounts of
not
money?
necessarily. No. Sometimes, but they talk about money. They talk about people. They talk about things happening. For instance, they call them, says, do you hear that? What? This and this and this and this and this. Oh, really? Oh, yeah, we should call this guy. Blah, blah, blah.
You could see what they knew, what they didn't know, and tie them to the story.
And probably not for publication, but for my own kind of understanding.
Yeah, crime psychology inside of these people.
Yeah, actually, one day, it was in the middle of the day, and I'm driving, and I have this device on, and I got a warning that there's a killing, there's an execution nearby. And okay, so I adjust my device, and I'm driving here like this, and then I listen to the police that says, the killers are in a red SUV, GMC. Okay. So I'm driving like this, and I see a red SUV.
Coming
driving
towards, on the opposite side of the road, coming towards you.
on the upside of the road. But the thing is, my
Oh.
device catches the conversation from the guys on the SUV. So I'm listening when I'm seeing these guys passing.
Christ.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not. Yeah, it was good. No, no worries. Everything is okay. No problem. No, but nobody's following us. Blah blah blah.
Right.
And I was like, okay,
Wow.
just keep driving.
Yeah, that's insane.
I'm not a police officer, so I'm not going to.
Right.
And I'm not going to follow them, of course. Yeah. So yeah, those kind of. But this is the old days.
This was the old
Now
days.
communications are way more different, encrypted.
Yeah, for sure. Much harder to get to sometimes. But also, if they're clumsy, it's a wealth of information that before was probably never attainable. So I guess for people that don't know, what are some different ways that drugs are smuggled into Canada? I live on Windsor border, so I know the Ambassador Bridge is huge, and I know in the book you talked about volume and how much it's increased since the disappearance of these local criminals. So and the cartels are now moving in. What are we talking about? How many kilos or stuff like that?
Well, for instance, there's two big stories in the book. The most extensive story is the Wolfpack, right? But there's another story in the middle of the book. It's called the Roadmaster project, and Roadmaster was a unit, a group of smugglers that they were able to smuggle massive boulders to Canada from Brazil and from Mexico through Montreal, and then by sea, and then trucks or like trailers all the way down to Niagara. These guys, each rock, they were able to kind of drill the rock and create kind of a compartment inside. Each compartment has 2 tons of cocaine, each one.
Each rock.
And yeah, each rock.
Wow.
And the police found that in 1 year, this unit was able to smuggle 17 boulders to Canada.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's insane.
So we don't know if all the boulders were filled.
Sure, it could have been some dummies and decoys, but even if it's a half, it's still
Let's say
insane number.
Yeah.
And before that it was nothing. Before that it was just mostly local, and 1/100th of that, 1/10th of that was in the country.
100 to 200 kilos, maybe. But now we're talking about tons. So that gives you an idea.
When you tell other fellow Canadian friends about this, obviously, your friends know all these stories from you, but when you go a little bit outside your circle group and tell them about these kinds of things, are people shocked? Are people unaware of this? Do they care?
Pretty much unaware, I would say.
Unaware, yeah.
Yeah, they are unaware. Unaware. Some of them don't really care. They say, well,
it's not a problem now. It's not that big of a deal now. I'll care when there's like public executions in the streets.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this is extremely, Peter and I talk a lot about this. There's two narratives here in Canada about on the drugs issue. The predominant narrative is fentanyl, heroin, the opioid crisis, right?
Right.
You have massive problems across the country because of the opioid crisis. But and people talk about it, and people complain, people criticize. You have a lot of opinions about it.
Sure.
But this is at the end something about, okay, these guys, the poor guys, the homeless guys, the guys who are, blah, blah, blah. But I don't see, and I don't hear, and I don't read anything about the other crisis, which is the cocaine crisis.
Right.
Because those who consume cocaine in Canada are guys and girls who work in downtown Toronto. They work in companies. They are decision makers. So that's a different story, and we don't hear about that. That's something that for me it's extremely
dangerous,
concerning,
right?
Interesting, concerning, because we should. I mean, we don't. I mean, we are so quick to blame the poor, the homeless, the First Nations, because these guys, they are addicts and blah blah blah. Yeah, but what about the other addicts?
Right.
The other day I was reading that there's a good number of restaurants and bars in downtown Toronto that they have mechanisms somehow. For instance, in the washrooms, the toilets, they put rocks on the top cover of the toilet seat in order to disencourage,
right,
cutting cocaine there.
Wow.
So that's a very interesting thing.
That's almost an epidemic.
Exactly.
That bad, yeah.
Yeah, is that bad? It's because they are doing that. Which is, I mean, you may say, well, it's useless because you can do it in a credit card or whatever. Yeah, but the fact that there's businesses doing that is because there's an issue there.
It's like putting spikes where the birds poop. You don't want the birds to land on the thing. You're acknowledging that there's an issue because you're doing that.
Exactly, but you don't talk about it.
Right.
So
why is that? That to me seems like really ignorance on the behalf of the users and the general public, because if they knew what actually happened for this stuff to get produced and to come into the country, I think they would have a very different view, because I think most people make jokes about cocaine and it's kind of seen as like this not harmless, but they don't see the repercussions of this business because they're so distant from it.
Yeah, when I go to lectures, I in the old days before COVID, I was kind of somehow a little bit active on lectures in universities about the drugs trade and so on, so on, so. And one of the things I usually ended my presentations telling people, I'm not judging anybody here, but if you are doing drugs, next time, think about all the information that I give you. Think about all the photos that you saw.
Right.
Think about all the stories that I told you and the story that I went through, and think about it. Because for you, it's easy. You just go. For me, I have a friend who works as a concierge in a fancy condo in downtown Toronto. And one day we were talking. I was visiting him, and he says there's a probably, I don't know, 20 years old girl coming out of the elevator, well dressed, and he says, "Hey, look that girl. Why? Just look at her." Okay. And we were kind of talking, and she was walking in the lobby. And then there's one guy coming. "Hey, how are you?" "Oh, no. Let's go outside." And they go outside. And then she came back. And he says, this guy is her dealer. Every single day he comes here and delivers drugs to her. So you may think, oh, it's not that bad. I mean, it's a guy coming to, a fancy building in downtown Toronto, helping this poor girl who probably has issues and she needs the drugs, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but this girl, this guy, and all those in the middle between them and Mexico they have blood in their hands. Because in order to produce that drug, a lot of people have to die. And some of them were my friends, colleagues. Because I have good friends in the police that they were killed. I have friends, lawyers that I told you before, killed. I have journalist friends, colleagues who were killed. So for me, this is not kind of this is just something to have fun or to relax or to whatever. No.
That's the importance of the book, right? Because it brings awareness. At least that's what you're hoping for, right? To these stories and the background of when there's a lot of killings in the book. There's a lot of people that get killed, and for me, living here 20 years, I haven't heard half of those stories. I am not even a quarter of those stories. But I do hear every day, oh, Canada is number 2 user of cocaine, or I hear, oh, we just busted 250 kilos at the border, and I always wonder, okay, what's the follow up? I mean, there's nothing that happens after that.
Yeah, actually, that's something extremely important that you say, because one of the things that also the book reveals is, to me, and I guess, I don't know if Peter agree with me, but I guess he will, but the legal system in Canada is not necessarily ready to deal with these guys, because pretty much most of them, or a good part of them, are on parole because they have these opportunities that the system
it's too lenient. It's too lax, probably, especially for their standards where they're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, one guy who was able to smuggle tons of cocaine to Canada, and he spends like 2 or 3 years in jail, and then, oh yeah, you can go and have parole.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but that sends a message to all the other people that want to do business here. Hey, look, this is the worst that can happen. A couple of years.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you go to jail, what will be your reputation in jail?
Nothing.
Because if you go there, I mean, if you go to jail and says, "Oh, who is this guy? Oh, this guy is member of a cartel, Sinaloa cartel, or the Zetas cartel." Oh,
right.
So it's gonna be almost like vacation for these guys.
You talk in the book that one of them, was it Nero? Nero is one of the main characters, or people, not characters, humans. He deals with someone close to El Chapo, or I think third in line.
We don't know that for certain.
Carlito.
The guy, Carnalito, he apparently he introduces himself as a guy with power. Somehow he has power because he's able to smuggle, to organize large shipments of drugs. But we don't know for certain if he is really that close to El Chapo, because, sometimes you can brag, oh yeah, I'm this guy and blah, blah, blah. And there's no way to really, that. But he has power. Yes, he has power for sure, because he has connections, he has logistics, he has power. So, and also remember that there's people who died in Mexico from Canada too, and they were killed in a very
publicly in resorts and
So the guy has power. Yes, he has power. He has a level in the organization. Yes. If he that close to El Chapo, we don't know that. We don't know. That probably, I don't know. And the thing is that now the situation is so fragile that probably we don't know if he's alive now.
Why is the situation fragile? What do you mean by that?
Well, the war in Mexico is rampant. There's this craziness everywhere. Organizations are fracturing every single day. I mean, now in the old days you have 4 major organizations. Now you have, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 organizations working. Sometimes they work together, sometimes they fight each other. It's extremely complex and volatile, the situation in Mexico.
What does that mean for Canada, I guess, then, since these locals have been detained and most of them are doing sentences right now? In the book you briefly mention about potential people from Mexico coming over and setting up shop here and what that would imply for...
Not potentially, they are here.
It's already happened.
Yeah, no, they're here. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think the Mexicans are coming here to kill each other here. But
once the other ones get here, though, right? Once new cartels get here, it's assuming there's only one cartel that stays. But once more cartels get here, I'm sure it's going to turn into that, right?
Yeah. No, and we know, for instance, in the book we mentioned that one guy from a different organization, his name is, let me give you the right name because I don't want to give you wrong information. Where did I wrote his name? This guy. I think I have my note. Oh yeah. This guy is called Abigail Gonzalez Valencia. He's arrested. He's in the U.S. now, but he is brother-in-law of Nemesio Ceguera, aka El Mencho, the leader, one of the most wanted drug lords in Mexico now. He's the leader of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, ruthless cartel. So this guy, he is part of they have their own kind of group called Los Queenies. And he came in 2014 to Canada with a legal Canadian passport under the name of Paul Jonathan Pac Toledo. So he was able to corrupt a Canadian officer who, well, we know she gave him a legal, valid, official Canadian document. So he came here. We know also that years ago, the son of Ismael Zambada, one of the founders of the Sinaloa cartel, he was here in Montreal. He spent a season here in Montreal. So
how do we know that? How did we?
Oh, because he told the story. He told in one letter that he wrote. He said, "Oh yeah, I went to Montreal and I spent a season there." Blah blah blah. Yeah. And this guy, the guy from the passport, we know from our research for the book.
I'm worried this is like that scene or that part in the Colombian narco story where Pablo lands in Washington and takes a photo in front of their most, recognized building, and then after that is the horrendous aftermath of the Colombian, cocaine war.
Well, you have it in the Wolfpack. You have a photo of the Wolfpack Alliance posing in Parliament here.
That right? Yeah, that's kind of the drawing there, right?
Yeah, and this is kind of here we are top of the world.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Oh yeah, is the guy with the wheelchair with
Wheels.
Maloney is?
Yes.
Yeah, Wheels Maloney. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is it's a larger photo. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and that is the whole Pack Alliance posing behind Parliament Hill in Ottawa.
And a lot of these guys are behind jail. Wheels is a really crazy story that he was. I don't know if it's still the case, but the largest explosive bust in Canadian crime history or something like that. He had 1,300 kilograms or something or 1,400 sticks of dynamite that he said he was holding for a friend because he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, one guy came and leave that back to me. He says, please keep an eye on that. No. I mean, it sounds, it is funny. I mean,
sure.
Crime is interesting. Crime is dual. Is horrific, but also it could be extremely funny.
And it's glorified too. Sensationalism with shows and Netflix, and you can say you hate crime and all that stuff, but everyone's going home and watching the latest Narcos or whatever, cocaine cowboys.
Yeah. I found people told me a lot of times, "Oh, have you seen this show? No. Have you read this book? No. Why? You should read it." I went there. I was
Right.
there. Some of the stories that they say I was there, or I know the stories from people who were there. So what's the point of?
It's also
And
it
also,
seems crazy. It's too close to what you do and what your like you said, your colleagues. It's hard to probably look at these things with
yeah,
any
sometimes
entertainment
it's
value. You know.
exactly. It annoys me that they exploit sometimes human misery to they glorify these guys
Right.
and this this guy blah blah blah. And some of them are extremely ignorant. They seem like flamboyant, but they're super ignorant. And I can tell you because I know these guys. I talk to these guys.
I've seen how they
So,
text. It's not the brightest.
yeah, you can see that, and yeah, you can. I mean, there's a lot of, unfortunately, and especially now with the pandemic, we are consuming whatever garbage we can get from the TV, right?
That's actually a
So,
good point. I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to ask you because I never really thought about pandemic implications until I read your book with Cartels. What did COVID
yeah,
mean for Mexican drug cartels and Canadian, importing cocaine into Canada?
nothing.
Nothing. It didn't slow down in the slightest.
No. Think about it. You have the border has always been closed for criminals, right?
Yeah,
Because that's the way it is.
sure.
So pandemic, no pandemic, what's the difference?
Yeah, trucks have been able to go through this whole time. Truck, and
Yeah.
I'm probably 99% of all imports are through trucks and not through, family vehicles or whatever,
Yeah, no.
SUVs.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's like when I remember I talked to a guy in the U.S. Mexico border once, and in those days, the Americans were reinforcing the border in Chihuahua, and they adding like a higher wall,
Fence. Well, yep.
false, fence, wall, what, more like a fence. And I talked to one guy and says, "Okay, what about this? I mean, is this affecting your business? Why? There's land beneath the wall."
Thousands of miles of it.
Yeah, and there's I mean, they are adding up, not adding down. So we can tunnels and whatever. There's always a way. There's always a way.
Are crime gangs always going to be one step ahead of?
Exactly, because that's their
Yeah.
business, right?
Yeah.
If I mean, how can you attack crime if you don't have crime? So you need crime to attack crime, right? So if you don't know that crime is happening, how are you going to attack crime?
Well, yeah. When it comes back to COVID and stuff, you said something that was a bit scary in the book, which was these cartels went to their local cities, citizens, whatever, and helped them out during crisis time
Yeah.
where their government abandoned them.
Yeah.
And what did that mean for? Yeah.
Well, that is happening not even before COVID. When Sinaloa is in the coastal area of Mexico in the Pacific, and there's kind of somehow frequently that you have hurricanes, storms, and so on. So when these disasters hit the communities, the first help assistance to arrive is criminals. They bring food, appliances, building materials, you name it. Christmas, big season. They for instance, in April the 30th is the Day of the Child in Children's Day in Mexico. And there's groups, they throw massive parties for children in the communities. And they have toys, they have food, they have music, just for free.
The first day of recruiting. It's like that's how they get.
Well, recruiting or to get for some of them it's recruiting. For some of them, I guess it's a combination. It's recruiting, but it's also trust, but it's also paying back because a lot of them come from those same communities.
Right.
And they said, well, if I did it, I want to share what I have with my people.
Right. That makes
because
sense.
they always see them as, the disadvantage, the
Poor,
ignored by the
underprivileged,
government.
Yeah. Whatever you want to call
Exactly.
it.
So they say, why? Well, now I can do it. Sure. And they pay. There's a lot of stories of people who they have, for instance, they are sick and they need money for operations or for surgeries or treatment or whatever, and they somehow talk to the local drug lords and say, yeah, sure, how much do you need? That? Yeah, there you go. Oh, I'm gonna pay you. No. And they never ask, they never, no. It's not only, oh, I want to do this because I want to recruit. No. I will say, at some point, I will say it's more paying back to the community.
What a strange twist. What a strange... You're taking blood money, and eventually you're repeating the cycle because the next kids that see you come back with a lot of money and wealth, and they're stuck in poverty, then they aspire to be that, and then they become that, and it seems like it's an impossible wheel to stop.
Yeah, and also there's among these communities, there's people who are helped by the criminal organizations, and they don't necessarily are engaged or involved in the business. Actually, they disencourage those guys. I knew people in Mexico that said, no, you're too smart for this. You're too valuable for this. No, go. You need money? This is money for school. Go and study and do a career. We don't want you here.
Really?
Yeah. Because they said, no, athletes, you're good for this. No, go ahead.
You don't need to do this.
Exactly. We don't want you here. Yeah.
That level of self-awareness is very strange. I mean, if you're that self-aware to make sure someone doesn't go down that path, but not self-aware to fix your, it just seems so strange.
It's extremely, I'm a little bit of a criminologist, sociologist, psychologist. I don't know, but I've seen that, and it's extremely interesting how the deep dynamics of interaction between criminals and the communities is way more different than what you read in the newspaper. So you need to be there. You need to sit at the table and listen to them and understand. Oh, okay, makes sense. I met criminals and not one, several criminals that says, you know what? I don't want my kids to be in this. I don't want my children. I don't want my brothers to be on this thing. I'm doing it, but I'm going to do what I need to do to make money to help them to be another person, a different person. And you can say, how can you do that? I mean, look, one of the most bizarre reflections or realizations happened to me one day. I was waiting for in an office to waiting for my turn to be, to do something. And I'm sitting there, and there's a woman with a probably 3 years old child. And the child they look poor. And this woman says that the child is hungry. And he's telling, I guess, his mom, I'm hungry. And you can see by the expression of the woman that she doesn't have any money to buy food. And she's like, wait. Yeah, we're going home soon. We're going home soon. Suddenly, there's this lady, the janitor, mopping and brooming. And she listened to the kid. and she leaves everything. She goes to a small room, open the door, and brings her food. And he goes with the kid and says, eat. And the mom said, no, please eat. He needs to eat. It's okay. And then as I'm watching this, I think, wow, how can you see these moments of kindness and it's warming, beautiful moments of kindness. Meanwhile, we are able to kill each other, to dismember each other, and to hang bodies from bridges without heads. It's human nature is insane. It's fascinating. You have this woman sharing the little food that she has with this kid that she doesn't know. In the meantime, outside, in some point in the same city, there's people torturing another guy, decapitating one person. And that was, I mean, for me, like, wow, this is
the full spectrum of the human condition.
Yeah. And that's and maybe I got that reflection or that idea from because of journalism, through my experiences,
to be able to see all walks and types of life, and
to identify that moment, but also to realize, oh, meanwhile there's this other moment happening.
What's your outlook, I guess, on Canada and what's going to happen in the future with these kinds of cartels? It seems very, pessimistic, right? With low sentences for criminals, to more and more cocaine going across the border, to cartels being here now. I mean, how do you look at the future of this problem?
It's going to take a while. I don't think we are going to see an explosion of violence or thing. No. They are smart. They know the importance of Canada, and they know they need to keep Canada out of the radar for business purposes. But this doesn't reduces the danger or the risk that as a society we are facing by having decision makers consuming drugs, or by having communities wiped out because of the opioid crisis. So for me, this should be a public health crisis.
While it still can be somewhat manageable, or before it gets out of hand.
Public health, exactly. And public health crisis means that you have to consider not only addictions, you have to consider housing, employment, mental health, a lot
and educating.
I
mean, just the basic stuff. Educating the public on what happens. I think a lot of people are unaware of how these things are made. The blood that is behind their consumption. They see it very as a party drug or whatever, but a lot of it is very bloody.
Exactly, and now you have marijuana is legal here, and I know there's some voices that said, "Oh, don't criminalize marijuana users and so on." So, don't criminalize in the sense of criminalizes in the sense that because you're doing marijuana, you are going to do this and that. Well, you never know. I mean, tobacco is an addiction, alcohol is an addiction. So it's. I don't know. It's sometimes there's a lot of hidden situations that because of we are too complacent, we don't want to see, or we just
there's too much other stuff going on, and you're putting it off the side, or you're not thinking about it, and then one day
or you don't want to see it. Basically, you don't want to see it. Just say like, I don't care. It's not my people. It's not my business. It's not my race even. So. That's also problematic, right? So it's complicated, but in reality is there's people profiting in a very lucrative way from Canadians by who like to consume drugs. They are making a lot of money.
I hope this is an eye opener for anyone that's listened. Luis, thank you so much for your time. I'll leave an Amazon link to your book. It's a fantastic read. Highly recommend it. Anything else that you're working on? I know you have a podcast. Is it entirely in Spanish?
Yeah, well, that podcast is over now. Unfortunately, Anchor, they changed the rules for taking
monetization.
donations.
Oh, donations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also I think monetizing. So the thing is, and to be honest, it wasn't that big of a.
It's not a lucrative thing to be in. No, I can.
No. It takes me time. I try to do it in the best that I'm capable, and with the resources that I had. But yeah, no, it wasn't.
What was the podcast? What was it? You talking about the stories, or what was it specifically?
It was kind of it evolved. At the beginning, the early episodes were I taking some of my own experiences to talk about something larger. For instance, the first episode was telling my story about the moment when I decided to flee. But I used that as a reference to talk about displacement in the world and refugees and so on. Then another episode was about mental health. And I spoke about my own challenges, PTSD, and how I have been handling these things in order to say, okay, this is a big problem. Also, I talk about, being away and so on. So then at some point, I noticed that, well, this is going nowhere. So I decided to switch into some more like current affairs somehow. So I tried to, I did an episode in Colombia when the protest in Colombia was super high. And I kind of, okay. And I like to, I'm also like a little bit of, I like history. So I give kind of a little bit of historical context. Okay, this is how we ended in this moment, blah, 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 blah. And then from there, I talk about a year now about the Washington, the Capitol insurrection. Spoke about the right and left. And then I spoke about the longest chapter or the longest episode was on the General Cienfuegos, the general from Mexico who was arrested in the States and then miraculously deported to Mexico without any charges. And I spoke about the role of the military in Mexico's national security and organized crime with a lot of, context and information. And I spoke about the last episode was about the third year of the Mexican president. And I said, okay, 3 years, this is happening. This is what I think is going to happen. Yeah, but again, it wasn't.
Okay. It's interesting, and you did all of it in Spanish. You chose to do that.
Yeah, it was in Spanish. Yeah, I realized because again, the market is different. For instance, this is the English market.
Sure.
A conversation with a guest and so. I don't have the resources to do this. For instance, I need you need storage. You need a platform. You need some technological resources that takes money, right? Which I don't have. So
you can do this for almost free. Maybe we can talk after the pod. I don't think you would have a problem if you wanted to go. I mean, I have some ideas. Maybe I can pass on if you do want to go down that route. I think I'm relatively knowledgeable, but I don't think this should be at any expense to you except time, obviously.
Yeah. Because I have, for instance, I have good. I know some people that are. I think it will be good guests. But again, I didn't have the because originally my plan was to do Spanish and English.
Right, that's a lot.
Try to kind of it's a lot. But okay. So I launched the Spanish, but unfortunately, in the Spanish culture, podcasts are more for entertaining.
I see. Not
Jokes.
For serious kinds of, yeah.
There's some, but you need to be super highly respected, well-known journalist or personality to have that. But, and the other thing is the level of polarization that in general in Latin America is seen now. It's extremely complex. So if you speak about this guy, the other guys are going to destroy you on Twitter or on social media, and vice versa. So yeah, so I tried to do that, and unfortunately it didn't work out well. So yeah, I stopped that. And yeah, so
okay, fair enough.
No.
I was just curious. So I'll leave a link, an Amazon link to your book. Obviously, check that out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest. I'm extremely grateful for your time.
No, my pleasure. Thank you. I think it. Sorry,
we went way over. It's okay. I enjoyed it. I didn't even care.
Yeah, no. It's a good conversation, I think.